Hello and welcome to this art activity provided by Arts for All Nevada and Washoe County School District. Today we're going to do a picture of some fish swimming in the ocean, and we are going to use some bright colours and different sorts of patterns to make the fish stand out from each other, and we're going to contrast it against a darker background with a different sort of pattern, in this case stripes, to make that stand out from the fish that we're going to put on top. So what we actually need, some blue paper and a range of different other colour paper, at least 3 to get 3 different coloured fish, some stickers, and I'm just using like ring reinforcers and other sort of labelled stickers of different colours, and also some white stickers. If you don't have them, you could actually cut out different colour papers to make your patterns, or maybe even use tape. Glue stick, scissors, pencil, a wax crayon, black or a black pen, some regular masking tape and some blue masking tape. If you don't have blue masking tape, you could use a different colour blue paper to help do that pattern, and a large plastic cup that we're going to use as a template to draw around. Let's move these things to the side. So the artist we're going to look at today is an artist called Romero Brito. He is a Brazilian artist, and he now lives in Miami. This picture is called Boomfish. It was done in 2011, and it's done in what we call a pop art style. He's very well known as a pop artist, and that means all his work is based on popular culture, things that we would recognise from books or magazines or comic books or the TV, things that are bright and bold and eye-catching. And this one, and a lot of his work, looks quite cartoon orientated. We've got bright colours with patterns and this big bold black line which outlines his shapes and actually gives us some detail and features to it. As I said, he was born in Brazil. He was one of 9 children. So when he started out, he was self-taught, and he used any scrap pieces of paper he could find and any materials he could find. In 1983, he actually managed to get to Paris and saw some of the pictures and paintings by Matisse and Picasso, and that inspired him to develop his own style, something he really wanted to do. He founded the happy art movement, and his work is very much promoting the idea of love and hope and happiness, and he believes that art is too important not to be shown to people, and he wants everybody to appreciate it and find some joy in it. He wanted to be a diplomat when he was growing up, but he's used his art to further good causes in his own country, in Miami and around the world. He's an activist and supports over 250 charitable organisations. So we're going to use the idea of these just very, very simple shapes with simple patterns, really bright, bold things to stand out in our piece of work today. The book that I've got you is about a very bright, colourful fish. You may know this one. It's called the rainbow fish. And I want you to look at the illustrations, and I want you to look at all the patterns and colours that are on the fish's scales and see if they're different for all the different fish. A long way out in the deep blue sea there lived a fish, not just an ordinary fish, but the most beautiful fish in the entire ocean. His scales were every shade of blue and green and purple, with sparkly silver scales among them. The other fish were amazed at his beauty. They called him Rainbow Fish. "Come on, Rainbow Fish," they would call. "Come and play with us." But the Rainbow Fish would just glide past, proud and silent, letting his scales shimmer. One day, a little blue fish followed after him. "Rainbow Fish," he called, "wait for me. Please give me one of your shiny scales. They were so wonderful, and you have so many." "You want me to give one of your special scales? Who do you think you are?" cried the Rainbow Fish. "Get out of my way." Shocked, the little blue fish swam away. He was so upset he told all his friends what had happened. From then on, no one would have anything to do with the rainbow fish. They turned away when he swam by. What good were the dazzling, shimmering scales with no one to admire them? Now he was the loneliest fish in the entire ocean. One day he poured out his troubles to the starfish. I really am beautiful. Why doesn't anybody like me? I can't answer that for you, said the starfish, but if you go beyond the coral reef to the deep cave, you will find the wisest octopus. Maybe she can help. The rainbow fish found the cave. It was very dark inside and he couldn't see anything. Then suddenly 2 eyes caught him in their glare and the octopus emerged from the darkness. I've been waiting for you, said the octopus with a deep voice. The waves has told me your story. This is my advice. Give a glittering scale to each of the other fish. You will no longer be the most beautiful fish in the sea, but you will discover how to be happy. I can't, the rainbow fish started to say, but the octopus had already disappeared into the dark cloud of ink. Give away my scales, my beautiful shining scales. Never. How could I ever be happy without them? Suddenly he felt the light touch of a fin. The little blue fish was back. Rainbow fish, please don't be angry. I just want one little scale. The rainbow fish wavered. Only one very, very small shimmering scale, he thought. Well, maybe I won't miss one. Carefully, the rainbow fish pulled out the smallest scale and gave it to the little fish. Thank you very much, the little blue fish bubbled playfully as he tucked the shiny scale in among the blue ones. A rather peculiar feeling came over the rainbow fish. For a long time he watched the little blue fish swim back and forth with his new scale glittering in the water. The little blue fish whizzed through the ocean with his scale flashing, so it wouldn't take long before the rainbow fish was surrounded by the other fish. Everybody wanted a glittering scale. The rainbow fish shared his scales left and right, and the more he gave away, the more delighted he became. When the water around him filled with glimmering scales, he at last felt at home amongst the other fish. Finally, the rainbow fish had only one shining scale left, his most prized possession. He'd given away, yet he was very happy. Come on, rainbow fish, they called. Come and play with us. Here I come, said the rainbow fish, and happy as a splash, he swam off to join his friends. So we've got all the different fish with one scale. You see the yellow fish here with the one scale stands out against the blue background, and this one's a purple fish against the blue background, and this is a lighter blue with the blue against the blue background. And the rainbow fish has got all these shapes showing us the scales on him. So we're going to use our shapes to show the scales on them, but we're going to use some different colours to make that stand out. So the words we're going to use today are pattern, foreground and background. So pattern talks about the idea of using what we call a motif, and this is like a sun shape, to create a random or a planned pattern over the surface. So I'm just going to show you with my ink block. So I can organise it. So I have a sun, a gap, a sun, a gap, a sun, and then underneath I'm going to do it so you can see what the repeat is. So you'll have a sun with a gap, a sun with a gap. So that's a repeat pattern. You can see how it repeats over the surface. And it adds interest to a surface. So it could be on a piece of paper or it could be on a piece of fabric. It could be really random and it's just filling up with the same motive over the whole thing, and you add interest to it. So those are different sorts of patterns you can have. The foreground and the background. So in our picture today, we are going to have some fish, and I'm just going to do some very simple shapes of fish. So the foreground is the front of the picture. They're in the very front of the picture. And then the background is the piece that goes behind them. So this is your foreground, the fish that are in the front of the picture, and the background is the part that goes behind it. There is also some middle ground. We're not really going to concentrate on that today, but if we had some seaweed that went up behind our fish, so the fish would be in the foreground, the seaweed would be in the middle, and then the ocean would be behind them in the background. So it's different areas of the picture that make different parts stand out, and it also gives some depth to the picture. Okay, so we're going to start on our fish. So let's start on the actual fish shapes. So we need our at least 3 coloured papers. I think I've actually got some more there. And to help us make our shapes, we're going to use our plastic cup. So first thing I do is take some masking tape or any tape and just go around the surface. And the reason I'm doing this is I found it stops it splitting, because we're actually going to put it under quite a lot of pressure and we're going to squash it. And then we're going to squash our circle into an oval. So we're going to put some masking tape over the top and press it together. So usually decide how much you want to push it together to see what shape you get. And I'm going to put a couple of pieces on it because it tends to pop apart. It's just to hold it while we're going to use our piece today. So I'm going to do green. I'm going to draw around it with my pencil, giving me enough room to put tails and things on. And let's use the orange. I think you might be able to see that one. And then we'll use the red. It's up to you. You could have all the fish the same colours and just do different patterns. You can decide what sort of colours you want to use. So we've got our 3 circles of our fish, and we can make them really simple. So decide what sort of shapes you want to have. So maybe it's just going to have a tail. Maybe this one's going to have a little bit more of a triangular tail. Maybe it's going to have some fins. Maybe this one is going to have one that opens up a little bit more. You can be quite creative. Maybe these are tropical fish. You can decide what sort of shapes and the tails and the fins are, or if they've even got any. So once you've done that, what you're going to do is you're going to think about doing a pattern. So maybe I'm going to do just random dots. These are my motif all the way over the top. And I would do it before you cut them out, and that way you can put them all the way to the edges. Make sure you cover the tail so your whole of your fish is covered. This one, I'm going to do a slightly different pattern. So I'm actually going to do stripes with these blocks. Oops. So I'm going to do some yellow stripes. So I've got my rectangle with my gap in the middle of it. And then next to it, I'm going to put my orange stripes. Let's put them off to the side slightly. There we go. And I say, if you don't have stickers, maybe you can cut some pieces of paper. They don't need to be this small. Or maybe you could use colour pieces of tape to do some stripe patterns. Or maybe you've got some stamps, so maybe you could stamp some patterns. And we'll go with green on the next one. Fill up the whole of your fish. Don't just do it in one part. Make sure it's covered all the way over. And I'm actually going to repeat this because I've got yellow, orange and green. So next to this one here, it's going to actually start back over again. We're actually going to do some green. You decide what the spacing is going to be. So my next row would be orange. Do that all the way up. because we're not cutting out yet, we can go right to the edge of those corners. And then it looks a little bit like I need another yellow down there. Okay. And then we've got one more over here, so I'm actually going to use these ring enforcers, and I'm actually going to go across it this way. So I've gone green, orange, yellow, pink, so I've got to go green, orange. Oh, and I'm off the page. So what I could do, let's decide, am I going to go, I'm going to move it slightly. So I'm going to start there and go all the way across. So there's lots of different patterns you can do. You could maybe, even before you start, have a look around your house and see what different patterns you can find, what different colour combinations you can get. We've got diagonal rows of colours coming here. Oh, I'm off the page, that one. So let's go up here. So I'm still carrying on with my orange, yellow, pink, green. I've had this one stuck to me. There we go. Oh, nearly went wrong there. Orange, yellow, and I think we can probably get one up there and one maybe there. Okay, so when you've done your patterns and you're happy with them, you can cut them out. Now we're on quite big pieces of paper, so what I would do is just trim it down to start with, so we're not dealing with too much paper. And then cut round. Remember, you're going to cut over some of the stickers. And we've just done it in pencil, so if you've still got some pencil lines, you can just erase them if it's distracting from your shape. So we've got one fish. I found the paper's getting away, I just cut it off and start again at a different place. So these are our fish that are going to go in the foreground, in the front of our picture. And then after we've cut these out, what we're actually going to do is work on the background, which is going to be the ocean. So there's our three fish. I'm just going to put them to the side until we're ready to put them on. And then we've got our blue for our ocean. And what we're going to do is we're going to use a striped pattern for this. And I'm just using blue masking tape, but if you want to, you can use different colour paper and just cut it into strips. And all we're going to do is stripes. So we can do stripes so they're straight across, or I'm just going to do them slightly at an angle. I'm going to make sort of triangle shapes, but it's still going to have a pattern going across our paper. If you're cutting paper, you can make them wavy shapes. Now I've gone right off the edge, so when you peel it up, what you can do is just turn it over and put the edges of the masking tape, cut it on the stick it down on the other side. You can trim them with scissors, but it's a little bit awkward to cut the masking tape straight, so it's probably just as easy just to turn it over and make it nice and neat. So what you're going to do from there is you're going to think about where you want your fish to go. So I've got them in different directions. You maybe even have one swimming in front of the other one. You decide where you want to put them on your paper. I like them going different directions just to add a little bit of interest. In fact, I think I might want to put that one up there. Yeah, I think I prefer that better. Okay, so stick them down. Remember, go round the edges so it's nice and stuck. So you just get the glue where you want it to be. And then to give them a little bit of features, I'm actually adding some white stickers for eyes. You can use a wax crayon or a black pen and put the pupils in. If you want to, you could maybe put smiles. Now, I am not putting a black outline around mine because you don't always have to have an outline, and I feel that the colours stand out enough from each other as it is. If you want to, maybe you can use a black pen and you can outline it like the artist that we looked at so that you can get that sort of comic book sort of look to it. It's your choice if you want to do that. If you finish with that, you can play around making some other patterns. And I did this one just using some white paper and using our masking tape or different coloured stripes of paper and making a striped pattern over the sheet. And I made it a little bit more complicated because I actually ended up doing a checkerboard going over. You can play with different sorts of spacing with it to get a different pattern, and I used my masking tape over the top. This one's going to be slightly different because I'm going to put it straight over the top, so you're just going to get blue lines within it. So you can build up your pattern. I used a pencil to draw sun shapes where mine crossed and then coloured them in, and then I put moons in the black, in the middle of the blue. You can play around with it, come up with some different pattern designs. You might want to go back to your stamps and maybe even add stamps to this. Or you can find some found objects and use paint and actually add some stamps to it as well. You can play around with making different sorts of patterns. Okay, thank you for joining me today, and I will see you next time. Bye.